Hi guys, welcome to Style Direction, a menswear podcast without the stuffiness. I am Ethan M. Wong.
And me? Well, you might know me as Lil Spencer. The
Lil
other host
Spencer.
of this podcast, yeah.
The LOS.
LOS.
I was going to say the LSO, but to film heads, that's the London Symphony Orchestra, who famously recorded the score to Star Wars, the original one.
You're so right.
Yeah, I tried to think of a joke, but I couldn't do anything there.
No, because
before
it's
we
just
start,
straight facts.
it's just I'm spitting Fs, dude.
Yeah.
Spitting Fs, taking Ls. It's kind of sad.
Yep.
Before we start, I just want to say that we are officially launching our openness to sponsorships.
We have a lot of housekeeping.
Yes, we do.
We should get out of the way right now. First of all,
Yeah.
I don't think we've mentioned it on air yet. We did launch a Twitch, which we're starting to use a couple times a week. We have a YouTube account up. Nothing's on it as of recording, but we're going to start uploading our old YouTube videos. And not old YouTube videos. We're going to upload our episodes
stuff
to YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah. So that way, if you I'm sure if you guys listen to this, you probably have already heard all the episodes, but say you want to share it with someone who doesn't use a podcast and just someone that, I know a lot of people who use like YouTube Music. So if you want that platform, it's there.
Yep.
We are also, we have the Twitch, which we mainly stream Call of Duty, but whenever Spencer or I play a game, the other people, aka Matt, don't get on mic, and MJ, don't get on mic, we'll be, facilitating conversations about menswear as we are, going through it.
So
and also the last time we talked about Star Wars.
Twitch.com/style, Twitch TV.
Twitch.tv.
Twitch.tv/style and direction.
Style and direction.
Give us a follow. We're trying to get to the 50 followers so we can become affiliates.
That'd be
I
great.
think right now we're at like 33 or something like that, so pretty good.
It's a good age.
Yeah. That's when Jesus died.
That's right. That's right. For those of you who don't know, we are big Christian fundamentalists.
That's not true.
It's not. Yeah, it's like Silicon Valley. You can do anything but be a Christian, right?
You just finished that show today, right?
I did crazy stuff, but
but that's not the point that we're talking about.
Yeah, we are also launching we're opening ourselves up to sponsorships. So if you are a brand, it doesn't have to be strictly menswear, but if you're something that kind of falls in line or wants to be have your ad copy read on the air of Style and Direction and featured in the Instagram stories and whatever, like the roll and the show notes, feel free to message us on Instagram or email us styleanddirection@gmail.com. We can send you over a little, I guess, a term sheet. And I've been watching Silicon Valley, so I've been thinking it was like business and capital and stuff. So it's been really fascinating.
But yeah, we're just trying to, it costs like about $180 a year to host this podcast on SoundCloud. We're just trying to, like recoup that and maybe get enough for some upgrades.
and we've said this before, but if we get that kind of stuff, we'll probably put out more content as well.
Because we were looking at this website that is like a middleman for podcasts looking for sponsorships, and none of the stuff that we saw we were interested in. We didn't want to advertise real estate investing on the show because I don't think that you guys would care about that.
Yeah, and also it would have to be attractive to them for our platform as well.
We're looking for brands that we
if you listen to this and you're probably a friend of ours and you're interested in the thing, we're not going crazy here, but if you're interested, maybe we can help each other out. You can send us an email, send us a message. And
I don't like when you say maybe we can help each other out. That sounds like it's bribery.
No, what I meant is hey, you contribute to this, and then we get your message because we're, and most of the brands who we know are like kind of friends of ours, whether directly or we know the people who work there, and we like to share the story.
But anyway, all of this culminating is that we're just trying to take the podcast up a step. There was a while when we were releasing episodes very infrequently. At least for the last couple months, we've been pretty consistent, and so we're just trying
every 2 weeks. Yeah, exactly. We're also looking at Patreon, which the account has been made, but we're still trying to figure out some of the stuff there.
You can subscribe to it right now, but we're not going to ask you to because there's nothing for you.
There's nothing. Yeah, we're continually working on this to make everything better. If that happens, we can probably make more episodes. That way, it's more worth it to contribute and everything. And then we are also working on making a Discord, which is kind of more podcast community focused of my Facebook group, but more because on Facebook we have the Street Expensive community. It's kind of general, even though you do have to sign in onto a Facebook account and answer my very reasonable question of who writes the fucking blog. And you'll be surprised about the weird names people come up with who don't know. But this one will be, it's easier to get in. If you don't use Discord, it's like Slack, and if you don't use Slack, it's
just like a messaging service.
It's a messaging place, yeah. I already have ideas of, every once in a while Spencer and I will be on there. You can talk to us. We'll put our eBay links in there. I think that'd be kind of cool, kind of like the put this on thing, except maybe more frequent, because Spencer and I, in our free time, go on eBay and we'll send it to our friends, and we're like, maybe other people might be into this. So, and like Spencer said, we are continually, the quarantine has helped us think
bored.
of new ways. We're bored. And right now it's like the 8th week of quarantine, or approaching the 8th week right now, at least at the time of recording, in press, but this is not press time. But yeah, so it's an exciting new thing. I'm really pumped for this. We're really glad to have MJ and Matt to kind of help us out here. Again, please don't get on mic, please. And yeah, so anyway, on with the show. Now, if you guys have been on MFA, or you guys are vaguely tapped into the world of, the fashion industry, I recommend following Business of Fashion. I don't really look at it that much, but occasionally there's something relevant there.
What do you recommend following it?
Whatever. It's cool to have, it seems smart. It's like, subscribing to The Economist or something, or New Yorker. But you guys will know that J.Crew has filed for bankruptcy, or is in the process of doing that. I don't know what it will be like in press time, which is, again, 2 weeks after the recording of this episode. But yeah, J.Crew's been in the conversation a lot. It's been in MFA. Derek Guy from Die Workwear has written about it for at least a couple of
he had an op-ed in the Washington Post yesterday.
Yep. And he also had one for Put This On, where he is the editor of that website. And so we thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of just discuss J.Crew. And
because it's like, I think a couple things I want to make clear. I am still an employee of J.Crew. I have nothing bad to say about the company that I work for. I've enjoyed my time there. Again, still currently employed, and I enjoy all my coworkers. And the third thing is that even though J.Crew has filed for bankruptcy, it is not closed. It is just restructuring. Obviously,
yes.
It's like it's not impossible that it closes by the time this episode comes out. But for the time being, I am going to be acting under the assumption that J.Crew still exists, and I am still employed.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So if you guys don't know about J.Crew, there's we'll add this in the show notes, but there is a great guide to it. There's 2 of them actually on MFA. Again, Male Fashion Advice, a great place for young people to kind of discuss menswear on Reddit. It's one of the biggest menswear communities as well. But it's a brand that's been around for a long time, since like the 80s, at least in its current, or not its current form, but like that's when it was turned into J.Crew, and it became like a mail order.
Yeah, for a while it was just
thing.
The catalogs, which is part of the reason why the catalogs are so, famous.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like classic Americana clothing. I think even my mom really liked shopping from it. Like my mom.
It was very like, it's like, it was very preppy, like Polo Ralph Lauren. And that's something we have in our notes here. I didn't mean to set it up so early on. But this was a very like 80s polo kind of brand.
Yeah. Oh no. I drank some water and I don't know what's happening. Coronavirus. But yeah, no, it's my mom has always had this kind of fascination with being preppy and being a wannabe WASP. Like I feel like I have the original preppy handbook somewhere that is currently out of print. But yeah, she always liked it. I remember even as a kid, like she would want to have like the J.Crew look. When I was a kid, it was like the 90s, where J.Crew had evolved from the catalog based brand into the full-fledged, I guess mall brand, you would call it that. But like it was like that look, right? The khakis, polo shirts, Oxfords, like puffer vest, it was yeah, like Spencer said, it was like Polo Ralph Lauren, except on the more accessible side, maybe more middle class as opposed to like the upper or luxury class.
Because I think the comparisons to like
was.
Ralph Lauren and Polo, especially come when you think about, you know, the catalogs aren't nearly as big a deal now, but when they were coming out, that was like very, you know, lifestyle branding. Like that was all pictures of people like canoeing or like at beautiful, like, you know, Cape Cod beaches, stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, like in the discussion for our elitist or the perception of elitism in menswear, some people on Reddit kind of talked about how Ralph Lauren was the first brand to kind of remove lifestyle from fashion, but I really don't think so, because it's so integral to like it maybe it showed like that a guy, you know, Ralph Lipschitz, whatever, who was not a member of the elite could, you know, have this vision for what the brand should be, but they, you know, it still showed like a world, and J. Crew did that same thing, you know, and it's just kind of, it's just really interesting to kind of see. And clearly to my parents, you know, my parents I don't think really bought Ralph Lauren, but they had J. Crew stuff, and they wanted that kind of aspirational thing that a lot of people, again, you know, really want to, which is why it's so classic, and it's kind of instrumental in the revival of classic menswear, or at least the at
preppy,
least in the terms of hashtag
revolution
menswear
of the late
whatever.
2010s. J. Crew was like, that was it.
Yeah. I mean, the whole, like, not just preppy stuff too, but like the whole heritage menswear movement and everything, raw denim. It's because, so when you guys look at it, like in its heyday, it was with who was it, like Mickey Drexler, Jenna Lyons, I think, for the women's line, and then they had Frank Mutagens, who used to work, I think, at Ralph Lauren, or who was a big designer as well.
He did all the Wallace and Barnes stuff, which is still
exactly. I mean,
the best stuff that they have in there, although he is no longer connected to it.
Yeah, and we'll get back and we'll get into the evolution in a second, but you know, it was like that time where it was, to me at least, it was a really big, you know, it was such a big force, because you know, when the article by Dyke Workwear came out, my friends, all of us in our little group chat texting thing, we were all talking about it, and you know, at the time, in the 2010s, it was like Mad Men, like current Mad Men, but also kind of post Mad Men time, where things were kind of moving into like that.
Well, because he talks about 2009, I think, is when the liquor store in New York opened, and that's when at least Derek kind of puts like J. Crew's top moment.
Yes,
like the height of his cultural relevancy was like 2009 in terms of like just menswear, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, because I mean, at that time, right, menswear blogs were coming out. You start to see menswear as like its own thing, you know, and at the liquor store, which unfortunately closed like a couple months after we visited it back in 2018, was, you know, it was one of their first. I don't know if it was their first, but
the first standalone men's store. Which as far as men's brands goes, I can't think of any other, like, or mall brand. I mean, I can't think of any mall brand that has just like a men's store. Like there's Macy's men's, but I mean that's like, you know, that's a department store, not just a regular brand. Yeah.
So I mean, it was like an independent place that was just men's, and I think they had like a separate buy or something there, because you could get like collaboration stuff, you can get other outside brands.
It was like a lot more boutique than the rest of their stores. It was like
and, you know, it's like they were tapped into this you know, this time where, you know, like 2008 was when the Armory, I think, opened, or 2010 or something like that. So it was like that time where menswear was becoming its own thing, where people were starting to like look at more places. Again, male fashion advice started around, you know, close to around that time. Raw denim, everyone's getting to that. So it was interesting. You know, I say that a lot, but J. Crew had really, at that time at least, tapped into what was happening in the men's fashion world. And to me, again, so I'm going back to this thing in the group chat. To me, J. Crew was like the height of that, because as a guy living in LA, but not the LA you guys think of, like downtown, I'm talking like east, like, you know, more near the San Gabriel Valley area. We didn't have anything like that. Like at my local mall, which has gotten better now, in terms of like entertainment wise, there's great Asian food there and everything else. It's still closed because quarantine, but you know, all I had was in high school and even in college was like Abercrombie and Fitch, H&M, Forever 21, and you know, Like that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And those had their own kind of vibe, right? H&M and Forever 21 were always like battling for like the fashion, maybe, kind of high fashion or like Asian style stuff, the cardigan and like the skinny jeans or whatever. And then you had Abercrombie for like American prep classics. So I didn't have J. Crew over there.
Yeah. Because I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, as far as like mall brands go, there's definitely, I don't know, less J. Crews than there are like H&M.
Yeah, there's less, and even then, like even compared to like Banana Republic or the Gap, it's also
because
less.
You can find like Banana Republic, Gap in like almost every mall. Like I don't know if this is nationwide or just California, but at least in Orange County, where you would expect there to be a bigger market for J. Crew. There's just like two stores. There's the one in South Coast Plaza and there's one in Brea, and I think that's it.
Yeah, I had one near where I live in Pasadena, but it was Old Town Pasadena, and that was for those of you who don't know, it's kind of like a walking around kind of, but not like an outlet.
That wasn't a combined men's or that wasn't.
It
just
was
a standalone.
It was a regular store, and so at the time, right at this point in time where men's was happening, I was in high school, I was in college, I was kind of starting, but I was more into vintage. I didn't really drive around a lot, so like I wouldn't want to go to this place where you had to like pay for parking or find street parking just to go shop at J. Crew. Like that wasn't in my mind. So
exactly,
J. Crew didn't really become a thing.
And another
later.
thing is like if you're like Ethan or I, you're probably not going to want to go into a J. Crew unless it's just the men's store, and that's because the way that most J. Crews are laid out is this is true just in the company overall. Women's stuff like sells way higher volumes than men's stuff. Like women,
and it still is.
Their women's wear is still like that's what's like keeping the brand going. Like their men's stuff isn't that important. So when you go into the stores, it's like mostly women's stuff, and then there's like one small room that has like 5 shirts and some chinos or whatever.
And like maybe like a couple of suits as well.
But what's cool about the men's store that like that I work in, I mean obviously it's just like all dedicated to men's stuff. So we have a lot of the third like party collaboration stuff. We get a lot of the limited edition or special edition stuff, which is cool. But yeah. Not all J. Crews are like that, and a lot of the men's ones are just closing.
Yeah. So
even the store that I work at is going to be combining with the women's store, or at least that is the plan currently.
Well, let me go talk about Spencer's special little menswear store, because again, I did not have anything like this. I didn't have any independent menswear. If I wanted to get independent menswear, I would go to like Joyride Vintage. Right, I would go to like the vintage stores that specialize in menswear. I'd go to Benny, shout out Reese's Vintage Pieces.
Yep.
But so I went to school near Riverside. Not it wasn't UCR. No, not Tufts. But yeah, I went to this place, and again, Riverside is in the desert. It is definitely like kind of also suburbia. There is not a lot of, I guess, like menswear culture down there.
Yeah, it's pretty far. It's pretty far from LA and like Orange County.
Yeah. So it's not like the best place. But it was only about 45 minutes with some light traffic to South Coast Plaza, which is near where Spencer lives. And Spencer, the South Coast Plaza is a very fancy mall. It has like Canali, YSL, Berluti, Fashionab.
Yeah, I mean, they got
Brioni. They got it's a bunch of stuff. And so like this mall, like to me, when I got more comfortable driving at the time, I was like a sophomore in college. I made friends. My friends with Raj, who's always killing it. Check out that episode. But we would go to South Coast Plaza like once every couple of weeks, because it was like, whoa, this is where we would go to like do menswear. Of course, we couldn't buy anything. We could barely afford H&M as it is because we were college students. We didn't really have jobs. I didn't even get like a job till like almost my senior year because I was so young and scared. But
to be clear,
crazy.
It's like when Ethan says like, "Oh, I was finally getting comfortable drive senior like your sophomore year of college." You were what, like 17, 18?
I was like 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, so it's not.
I graduated college, high school at 16, and most people drive around that time, but because I was like applying for stuff, I just didn't have time. I didn't want to burden my mind with driving.
What to do with the wheel?
Yeah, like what the fuck do you do, right? The Prindle and everything. But yeah, so yeah, it was really great. And so yeah, we went to Banana Republic, and this, all those stores, they still had some mall brands too, because of course they're not stupid, they're not gonna just have luxury stuff. They still had H&M, they still had Zara, but the selection there and the staff were like a cut above the rest.
Yeah, like all the stores are kind of like the higher tier version.
Exactly, they had stuff, and sure enough, this was a place that had the men's only J. Crew there. The women's one was like in a totally different part of the mall.
Yeah, it's like across, it was like, it's also huge and just looks way different. It's a different vibe than our store.
Yeah, so the men's store, I went in there and I was like taken aback because, okay, so you think about Banana Republic, yeah, that's like, okay, I mean, I'm a Banana Republic alma mater. Nothing to write home about, but I was used to like going to Nordstrom with my mom, going to Macy's, maybe not Macy's, my mom was not, she'd always wanted to go to Nordstrom at least, but you go to Ralph Lauren, which there was a Ralph Lauren store there as well, and what you're used to is seeing guys wearing like a black suit, navy suit, plain white shirt, solid tie, but I went to this J. Crew and they're like, I wasn't in male fashion fits at the time, so this is where I first saw like jeans cuffed with like boots but with like a cardigan on top. I saw like a guy wearing like a chambray sport coat or like linen trousers, loafers and everything. It was like, because at the time, again, I was into vintage menswear. My only friend was like Spencer, and now this Raj, who was more preppy, his parents like shopped at Brooks Brothers. He would buy like Brooks Brothers children stuff because he's a very small guy. But like, so he would kind of show me like Pitti Uomo a little bit. I started to get kind of into J. Crew as I was expanding my style with vintage and everything. But like seeing it in person was like such a big deal to me, and I was like, this is crazy. So to me, I mean, I'm sure this is like what guys felt like when they first saw like the Armory, where it was like one of the first like independent menswear stores that was like curated, that people who worked there dressed with personal style and incorporated, maybe not everything from the store, but like had a sense of like, experimentation and everything, and it was such a big deal to me. I mean,
because I never really went to South Coast Plaza by myself either, until I guess you started working there, and you'd be like, hey, like let's hang out at the mall before my shift or after my shift, whatever. And yeah, whenever we went into the J. Crew men's store, what was really cool about it, especially at that time, maybe less so now, but it seemed like everyone that worked there was
into it,
was really passionate about like just dressing well, and it wasn't like this is like just a job. It felt more like kind of like what you were saying, like the Armory Drakes or whatever. Obviously not at the same level, but you could go in there and you could talk to them about something, and you could tell that they're not just like, oh yeah, here's what it says on the tag. Like they know about it. They know about the product, and they like have an opinion on it.
Yeah. It was really great. I mean, and just in general too, like the way the guys that worked there that looked like facially, like this is gonna be really weird, but like it was different than like Abercrombie. Like when I went there, like I saw guys wearing, this is like what, 2015-ish, 2014, 2013 for me. Like I saw guys wear like they're not with just like undercuts, but like they had like maybe like a middle part, or like they had the round like glasses, with like a beard, kind of, you could call it hipstery, but it didn't look like, you're wearing like a vintage band t-shirt and like a flannel. Like they were doing that, but with menswear.
They did all kind of dress like Joseph Gordon-Levitt a little bit.
Yeah, at the time it was, but like, again, to a guy who, lived in like East LA, who went to H&M all the time, and, people who hate their lives work there or whatever, and went to university near the desert. It was such a mind-blowing thing to me. And unfortunately, I did not work there because I guess they weren't hiring when I was looking for a part-time job.
Then they were a little bit more, they offered things like commission and full-time if you were just a sales associate, which they no longer do. So it might have been a little bit more like, quote unquote, like a higher end place to work than it is now.
Yeah, and at the time I worked at Banana Republic because also my schedule didn't allow me to be free for a lot of different stuff. So I worked right next door at Banana Republic, but Banana Republic, compared to the two, and even today, like J. Crew was just always like just a little bit better in terms of like design and in terms of just like curation.
They've always had like, I guess, more of a distinct voice, which a lot of mall brands don't have anymore. Like going back to Banana Republic, it used to be this really cool, like kind of outdoor safari gear place that it's not anymore. Now it's just a generic place that's like you get nicer, slightly nicer stuff than you do at like H&M or whatever. You know, same thing with like Abercrombie, which used to be a legit like outdoor like hunting store.
Yeah. It's so weird because so when I worked at Banana Republic, like it was okay. I think that our suits were finer in terms of like compared to J. Crew. Like I think Banana Republic wanted to be more of like an accessible luxury brand, not exactly fast fashion, but you know that a little bit higher. And so it was a little bit interesting to see because like polos at Banana Republic were like performance polos ish, you know, slim fit, kind of like jersey stretch, whatever, plain t-shirts. The chinos Banana Republic at the time though were top tier because I still own mine, and they were like mid to rise, but I lost weight since then, so they sit higher. Really great stuff. But you know, J. Crew had like field jackets. They had again like chambray like overshirts. They had fucking like aloha, like actual aloha shirts.
I remember a suit that you were trying on that you didn't buy that I tried to get you to buy, which was like navy 3-piece like wide whale corduroy with like pockets. Which at the time, like I hadn't seen like any other mall brand do stuff like that.
And neither did I, you know, like it was so crazy to see that, you know, seeing tweed check jackets, you know, of course at the time I wasn't thinking about how low their button stance is and two buttons and how they suck and everything.
Another thing I remember from going into the store in like 2014, 2015, whatever, is like how full that like back room was, like the Ludlow room. With all their suits, they had a ton of like ties, really cool pocket squares, and this was
and like, they worked with Drake's too. They worked with Drake's for some ties
the first
and
time
squares.
That I saw like Drake style pocket squares or whatever. Before I knew what Drake's was, but I would see these cool pocket squares with old like, you know, oh, this looks like a medieval tapestry or whatever, or it's like, and I was like, damn, this is so cool.
Yeah, it was really crazy. It was so eye opening to kind of see. And before we get any further, I want to say a little thing. I'm pretty sure the guys who worked there, this is like before, like maybe 2 or 3 iterations of that J. Crew store before Spencer worked there, but I'm pretty sure they got tired of me walking in and not buying anything because I just wanted to be around it, you know. Like I wish I could work there because Banana Republic again, like a lot of people who worked there was like a job. I remember I made like a slimline name for myself because I dressed because I liked it, and I would talk to people. Like I would a couple times people would walk in there with the Allen Edmonds bags in Banana Republic, and I'd be like, oh, did you get the I forgot the name, but like the McAllister or something like the name of like what the Park Avenues or something, and they're like, how did you know?
That's a J. Crew thing.
Well, yeah, they probably said like Park Avenue or something, and they're like, how did you know? And I'm like, in my mind, it's like, because that's what you would get, like if you're buying like the one shoe from, you know, Allen Edmonds or whatever. But yeah, I'm pretty sure those guys there, I can imagine them in my head right now, like, oh look, it's that guy again who just comes in here, who works downstairs at Banana Republic, but comes in here just to look at stuff. But it's that sense of like looking around that was really cool. Like I had never like done that before. Like my when you buy clothes, at least to a lot of people, you go there to buy something, but J. Crew was like the first place I actually shopped at because, like Spencer said, it was so full of just different stuff that you wouldn't normally see. Like Banana Republic did not have like, you know, a shawl collar dinner jacket. They did not have fucking like braided belts. They did not have Barber collaborations or Harrington jackets in there.
Which is okay. And that's another really cool thing that I liked about J. Crew is this is like people would learn about Alden's and Barber for the first time coming into our store or whatever. Like, you know, we had a couple pairs of our store did not get stocked with Alden's, but every time someone returned them, we always like kept them out on display because if we sell them, hey, that's like, you know, $700 sale with one item.
Yeah.
And so we'd have people come in here and be like, hey, how come these loafers are like so much more expensive than your mainline loafers? And I get to tell them about Alden, which was fun. But yeah. Oh, and also one more thing about the people that worked there when you were working at Banana Republic. I'm pretty sure all of them got poached by Suit Supply.
Which makes sense because if you know anything about menswear, at least from the level of like mall brands and everything, you know that Suit Supply is better in terms of design at the very least. But yeah, so let's move on. Now, so something changed with J. Crew a little bit. One fun thing to see is
it's been struggling for a couple of years now.
Yeah, it changed hands a couple of years ago, and I think last year to like or mid 2018 was when like this new vision for the new CEO or something kind of
he was the former CEO, I think, of Anthropology, and he did some interview, and he may be right about this. He's like, why are we still doing the
Americana
80s, the 80s preppy look? Is that like what people want? And maybe he's right. Maybe he's right about that, but his solution, which I personally disagreed with, and this was like, I think, right after the time that I got hired, is he was like, we're going to just make a lot of this stuff more generic, like less, like.
And that's why I hated Banana Republic, because it wasn't interesting to me.
And so all of a sudden we started getting all these like super elasticy jeans. We got all these like tech pants, tech clothes, whatever. But
you guys had those derbies that were awful. Yeah, well, at least I think they were awful.
With the little like ribbon pull tab things on the back.
Yeah, they had like what you see on like Chelsea boots, like the pull tabs, and then you also had they had like metal eyelets.
Yeah, and
as well.
Contrasting soles.
Contrast soles. Ugh, God.
But I mean, that's that was like right after I got hired is when that's.
Yeah, and it's just so sad to see that's the kind of like, when you look at J. Crew, I think it provides a bigger view on how people view fashion or men's fashion from both a business standpoint and from a consumer standpoint. But we can get into that in a little bit. But yeah, like I even noticed some of the changes. I mean, it was sad to see. I had only bought a few things from J. Crew because if you guys know me very well, like you'll know that my style changes very quickly in terms of like how I buy things. Like I think I always know what I want to look like, and it's I'm smart enough not to like go all in on something, because I think a lot of people make the mistake of I want to dress up, so then they buy their whole wardrobe from J. Crew. But like for me, I know that like, okay, I wanted like the whole Drake shawl collar cardigan thing that's cashmere, but I don't want to own cashmere. But at the time when I was around that mall, they had a brown lambswool shawl collar cardigan, which I bought and I still own, and it's great. It still lasted this long, and it was seeing less and less of that, at least on when Spencer worked there, was pretty sad because
I mean, even by the time I worked
where would I go?
There was still a lot of stuff at J. Crew that I was not really interested in. Like I didn't buy a whole lot of our casual shirts because I didn't really want like the small collars. I don't own any of our pants except for a pair that I got for free because the rise was always too low. Like I don't think I bought any of our shoes other than our sneakers. But still, like, there was still a lot of stuff that even if I didn't personally like, I'm like, okay, it's cool that they're doing. It's cool that we have patchwork Madras shirts, even if the
because even the thing when you read all of those articles about J. Crew or those things on Male Fashion Advice, even though it's not like the last place you should shop at once you get to that fashion nirvana standpoint, it still shows a lot of like regular guys what variety there are, because Banana Republic does not have Madras shirts. H&M won't have Madras shirts. In order to get that, you would either go to Brooks Brothers, which may not be the best fit for you. Also, where's Brooks Brothers anymore now? There's even less of those than J. Crew.
Yeah.
But you have that. You had like one of the best stuff about J. Crew was like the outerwear. It was like like the mechanic jacket or like the anorak stuff. It's crazy.
Or
again, these are mainly Walls and Barnes,
come with like a couple different like 3-pocket short coats. They're usually really good, stuff like that.
Just yeah. And Spence, you own like the brown corduroy one, which is fairly recent. That one's really great, And I guess that probably shows that that man's view of making it more generic did not pan out, and they pivoted back a little,
Yeah, because
within the course of that year.
As far as I know, we still don't have a CEO. It's still just the board running everything. So after they got rid of the last guy whose name I can't.
No, Gavin Belson.
Gavin Belson. That's right. After they got rid of him, they were like, okay, we're just going to be operating the company, like, without a CEO, just the board making decisions for the time being. And as far as I know, they still haven't hired a new CEO.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. Apparently didn't really work out because now they're under bankruptcy. But I think one of the reasons, we talk about issues here. I think one of the big things is like the price point of J. Crew, because
it was never the cheapest place.
It is definitely not, because to me, even now, well, ish now, but like it's very expensive. Like $60 for like a button-up shirt is crazy to me. Because in this new world, you're starting to get more and more custom or being accessible to artisanal brands, which are definitely more expensive, but a better value. Like an Ascot Chang shirt, even though your minimum order is 4 shirts for first time, it's still like $250, and it's totally custom made to your body. It's bespoke, and you get to pick the fabric from these reputable mills or our house mills. But you go to J. Crew, get like the secret wash shirt that's like $60 or $70, and it's short in the body, short in the collar. It's kind of a slim fit. There's classic fit too or whatever. But it's like, okay, it's kind of a weird point to
I mean, it's the same thing. Like every time when I worked at J. Crew or Men's Warehouse, every time I sold a suit like greater that was more than like $1,500 or whatever, I'd be like, whoa, like, why are you buying off the rack if you're spending this much?
Yeah, and J. Crew suits, I mean, like they're like $700 altogether.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so here's what I'll say about J. Crew suits. I think we use some really good mills. I really like a lot of the cloth that we use. But I'm not a huge fan of how the suits are cut. I don't own any of our suits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have all that, and even to like regular people, again, Spencer and I both worked at the mall. People aren't ready to pay that price because the world just doesn't dress up like we do. And we've talked about this plenty of times in the course of the podcast and in person. But it's, it's hard for people to justify that whole, like, okay, I need like a shirt. What makes it better to go to J. Crew? And saying that, yeah, well, these are dyed a little bit better. These are more comfortable. The indigo is really great, or the suit is coming from this mill. People don't really get that. And so the more and more that this happens, the less people are okay with it. And then you have the opposite part where they do the whole sale strategy,
which was like a revolving sale because I'm not. So here's what ended up happening a lot because we have constant sales. Going back to what you were saying about the suits, so in general, like the kind of regular Ludlow suit, total with pants is going to come out to about $650, which a lot of the guys that came in were either there for a job interview or they had a wedding to go. It's hard to justify spending $650 on something you're probably only going to wear once or twice. So whenever we were running 30% off, 40% off sales, people would come in and say, hey, are your suits on sale? And I'd say, nope. And they said, okay. And then they'd leave.
Walk out.
Yeah.
Same thing happened at Banana Republic, except that Banana Republic, the suits aren't as good as the J. Crew one, at least in terms of design and fabric and everything. But yeah, I mean, you look on Reddit now. Every time people recommend stuff, they always say, "Yeah, you can go to J. Crew, but wait till it's on sale."
Yeah, exactly.
Or check out vintage J. Crew on eBay. And those are, I mean, Spencer or one of our friends owns a vintage J. Crew barn coat from like back in like the 90s, which they revamped, which I'm very happy that they gave me. It's Andy, yeah. I think it is.
But yeah, both of us have the. Okay, that's another line that we could talk about. The J. Crew Always line, which is their like 80s reproduction or reissue stuff. I really liked a lot of that too. It was.
I mean, yeah.
And it was like, it didn't feel quite like, like whenever Urban Outfitters or whatever makes like weird 80s stuff, because they actually did use pretty like hefty, like durable fabric. It felt sturdy.
The one I have is like my go-to rain jacket because I don't have a barber, unlike Spencer and now Matt. Please don't get on mic.
Yeah.
And so it's really they had some good stuff, and it's a little bit sad to see them go. I mean, I'm on the side of like innovation and like well, I don't like that jobs are being lost and everything, but we are truly entering this new like era of men's fashion, not just because malls may not exist after this, and in these places, but like what J. Crew kind of represents, because I don't, Banana Republic, H&M, they don't have a look. We didn't have a Banana Republic look, but J. Crew has always had a look. It was always tapped into this Americana, everyman but slightly dressed up and preppy or whatever aesthetic.
Yeah, I think
so.
Well, no, you finish your point.
I was just gonna say that this is kind of like what Derek is talking about in his stuff. It's like what will happen from here now. How will people know what to wear? How will regular guys go? So
I think maybe one of the problems is that just like men think about fashion way differently than they did even like 10, 15 years ago. Because now I don't think there's really any room in the market for like, we sell basics but like with a slight twist or whatever. Because I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I'm talking about out my ass, but I feel like right now,
gross,
guys either want to just dress like the MFA basic bastard, in which case they can go to H&M or more likely Uniqlo and do that pretty well, or they want to get into a more like niche style, like they want to do streetwear, they want to do tech wear, they want to do classic menswear, which you're not going to be shopping at mall brands to get these things. Yeah. And so I think the people that just want to dress like the basic bastard, so as our friend Rory said, they can be better dressed than 80% of the population. They don't want to spend, like you said, $70 on a single button up. They want to be able to get an entire outfit for $70.
Yes. And that's a hard mentality to kind of beat, because that is
I don't think you can't. You can't beat that. And I don't think the old way. I don't think the old way of how men think about fashion.
Because
I don't think that's coming
also,
back.
I mean, nowadays I think a lot of people are more like we said, are more and more literate in a sense of what they want out of fashion. So I could see like back in the day, like I was, you go to J. Crew and you're like floored by like the selection. You are like, whoa, this is crazy. I need to shop here because clearly these guys know more than me, or they're doing something different than what I'm doing. But nowadays, people have male fashion advice. It's growing. It's like 2.2 million people on there. That's the size of a fucking city, a small town, or at least a small town or something, where you have these guys not just comparing like Uniqlo to Banana Republic, but they're comparing like Gustine jeans to like Naked and Famous to LVC or whatever. And they're regular guys. They're not going to dress up like me and Spencer, but they still know a lot more than what I did in 2014 regarding regular menswear.
Yeah.
And so, there is not that much space for J. Crew, and Derek, the people are giving Derek shit because he had a very clickbaity title where he's like, no one's like this place that taught men how to dress.
American men how to dress. Without J. Crew, they're lost or whatever. Which the article was fine. There was like one or two Twitter threads making fun of it yesterday. Article was fine. The headline was dumb.
Yeah, but I can see where the issue is there, because the upside is people will be more inclined to go to these boutique brands and everything. But as we talked about in the lifestyle previous episode, there is that sense of if you know in menswear, even regular menswear, right? So it's kind of like the opposite could happen, where people feel more and more intimidated than ever, and they just refuse outright to even try.
Because as Derek says in his Washington Post thing, if you could say the best thing about J. Crew was that it was reasonably priced. Almost everything there was it was reasonably ish priced, especially if you get it on sale. Everything there was pretty solid. So if you're like a college student or a high school student or something looking to get started, you could be safe going into J. Crew and buying your whole outfit now. But without it, your options are either just like go to Uniqlo or another mall brand, or you have to do your research and find the best online chino that cuts out the middleman and sells direct to consumer, and you have to do that for t-shirts,
and that's where the
socks,
and that's where the YouTuber menswear comes in there. Why that's happening?
Exactly.
It's all kind of connected, right? So and guys are getting more lost, and like Rory said, like this is a place you could go to get dressed for everything, and you'd be fine, you know. And again, like I said, J. Crew had way more options, so you could experiment by going to J. Crew and come out more interesting than a guy who went to Banana Republic or Massimo Dutti. Yeah. You know, in a more classic sense. You know, so, but to me, the issue that I brought up in my chat was that I don't like that idea where you should just come out and be acceptable. My hope is that it forces guys to kind of not just look out and have to like not be intimidated by the sourcing, but just kind of think about it as like, okay, what made J. Crew? What is this taste thing here? And hopefully that will be like, okay, how do I navigate that part now? I don't think that many guys will get there easily.
I don't think many people are going to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, clearly what I was talking about, Matt, please don't get a mic, is that I always liken it to just kind of like taste, right? I think of things like restaurants, and you know, you go to a Chinese restaurant to eat Chinese food. You don't necessarily know need to know how to cook it, but you know that Chinese food is not Indian food. You have like a taste. You know what that is. Just like how people today can see a Wes Anderson film and be like, okay, well that looks like Wes Anderson. Even there's a whole subreddit based on like this picture looks like a Wes Anderson photograph, you know. And if the world is moving in that direction, right, and it's clear that it is, where lots of people like on TikTok, like kids younger than me, have like watched way more classic films, deep diving into, you know, the difference between different directors and writing. It is my hope that this transfers into the world of menswear, or the world of men's fashion at the very least, because you don't have to dress like Ethan or Spencer or Mark Cho or Michael Hill and everything, but it's the idea that there is different styles out there that have an identity. And so, yes, they're going to have to go to these boutiques, but maybe they'll be like, okay, well, that reminds me of J. Crew. Now, what is things like that looked similar, or that can give the same vibe across, but if J. Crew's not here, I have to go somewhere else. And that's kind of just my hope, and that's why I don't want it to be like, okay, J. Crew's gone, how are men going to get dressed? You know? Because that, even though it's not it's a clickbaity headline, that stuff kind of still gets passed around every once in a while, where guys have to do the bare minimum to get dressed. And at this point in time, we did have places like that where you could do that, but who knows what will happen in the future going forward.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like, what was it, like 2019, the biggest like fashion realtor was like Amazon or something like that. Yeah, like who knows if like how long brick and mortars, I think brick and mortar stores are always going to be around, but who knows when it's going to transition into like bonobos like model, where you just try something on and then they place an order for you or something like that. That might be the future of men's retailing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard because the whole, you know, you have two different things, like I said earlier. You have the business side where you really want to make a profit, which, I mean, hey, if I was a business owner, that's what you would have to do, right? We're trying to do that in the podcast. We're trying to, you know, at least make some dough here. And then you have the other side where it's the consumers, where you want taste, you want something, and it's this constant battle between the two, which makes this whole next stage in menswear and men's fashion, or the fashion industry in general, very interesting to watch and a little bit scary, because like Spencer said, we don't know if what's going to happen, if brick and mortar is going to stay there. Yeah. Clearly, you know, the independent men's stores are closing. When you look at the pie charts, women's clothing still, even today, outpaces menswear. You have the height of designer and sneakers, where, you know, the bubble might explode compared, you know, as the Throwing Fits guys say. We're gonna be in a post sneaker world. There's an article I read, like, it's in a post trend world, you know. Now we have like we have a lot of different niches.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I think we've talked about in a previous episode. There's no, I mean, there still is, but there's no longer any sort of big cultural, like, or generational, I guess, like, style of dress. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day because I've been watching a lot of, I'm rewatching Mad Men, which I found out is a thing that a lot of people are doing right now. So that's kind of cool. But I was just thinking about the cultural role that hippies filled. and you always compare them to like hipsters or whatever, but it's like I don't think it's the same thing, because like, okay, so when you like hippies dressed a certain way, which really kind of like denoted a spot in the culture, like a lifestyle, an ideology, and like it immediately told people this is what I'm about. And I'm not sure there's any like popular style of dress that can do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean that then that's why a lot of these big brands. I mean, Barney's is closed too. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like a different idea, because that's more of a department store that doesn't really have its own unique identity. But it's we don't really have that at all anymore. And J. Crew closing, or at least going bankrupt and going through restructuring, is one piece in what could potentially change everything in the future.
Yeah.
Because again, like I said, like J. Crew was like a big thing to me before. I think one of our friends, who makes his own clothes, John, walked into like a J. Crew when he was a kid, and he'd be like, "Oh shit, you can wear stuff like that?" Like when I was there, like seeing like a denim shirt with like a fucking puffer vest, no one did that. I mean, Spencer and I grew up with uniform, so we didn't really see a lot of like personal expression, at least from like the younger style. And then when I was in college, a lot of the people I went to one of the most diverse campuses in America. I think we have like a award for that. But people, like, business majors would wear just like the gingham J. Crew shirt and like chinos when they wanted to like dress up or be like business casual. But then you go to the actual J. Crew store, you see like puffer vest over like a sport coat, they have all this kind of stuff. And it's again indicative of like the 2010 to like 2017 time, before this whole restructuring, before it's the CEO left and then the restructuring thing. But like, it was a way for me to see the wider world of menswear dumbed down or diluted into a mall brand.
Yeah, because it's like
right?
You said, they were working with Drake's, but I always thought that a lot of the stuff they were doing was like, okay, this is like a cheaper version of Drake's. So this is something that I originally thought was a cheaper version of Drake's, but Ethan thinks that they're the same thing. So Drake's came out with their mock toe chukka boot.
Yes.
And then the next year, J. Crew had a version that looked just like it.
In a different colorway.
And so at first I was like, oh, this is just us like seeing Drake's make something, and then we rip it off. But you think they're made in the same factory? Someone
told me. I this is not me. I know all the people I currently know at Drake's are in different areas now, so they can't. It also was not one of them. It was some random dude who I think lived near a shoe factory or something, or had someone who worked there, but he was like, bro, they're the same thing.
Yeah, because like, no way. The J. Crew shoes were probably like 150. I don't remember. It's been like a couple weeks. It's weird because I haven't been there. Like we said, it's, I don't know, like 8 weeks or something since we've been at home. But it feels like years since the last time I went to J. Crew.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I don't go anymore because I go to the Bloke now, which again, anyway, I prefer independent places. The J. Crew shoes
were something like 150, and the Drake's shoes, what were they like?
400, I think, or 450, or something like that.
But anyway, my point is that we're like we made stuff that was like watered down Drake's.
Yeah, and it just shows like the J. Crew taste level, apart from the whole commando soled derbies with leather with metal eyelets. Apart from that very brief stage, it had such a great taste level, because I would be confident in recommending people to go to J. Crew. Like, it's not, when people ask me or Spencer, hey, how do I dress like you guys, like, that's a loaded question, because we pull from a lot of different inspirations, and including our not just our colleagues and friends, but people we look up to. They have their weird inspirations. Like, they'll look at a fucking painting and be like, okay, this suit is inspired by that, or this tie,
It's like this color really, combination.
Yeah, it's like an old like Robbie Coltrane thing. And I'm dressing like that. So, but like, I'd be fine with like, dude, go to J. Crew. They have like, look at the mannequins there. Like, you'll be fine. Yeah. It's that idea. And again, I don't like saying that, but to a person who doesn't have to look at clothes the way we do in our weird, fucked up way, it was such a great place, because it, like I said, it was a diluted version, and it was a way that you could go to the mall, because I think that a lot of people go to the mall and be like, okay, well, I'm dumb. I don't know what to do. I'll just dress like the mannequin, or I'll just dress like the salespeople. And so if I told them, oh, I saw a dude in Italy wear this, they would listen to me. But if they saw it in front of them, a guy wearing a chambray work shirt with a wool tie, they see it in person, like, oh, okay, works, so it's like the kind of thing of like, show them the inspiration that they'll connect with. And that's, what J. Crew is. And we'll see what happens, because I mean, I have some stuff from J. Crew.
I'm wearing a polo shirt from J. Crew right now.
I'm actually wearing Banana Republic right now. I'm wearing shorts. We didn't talk about what we're wearing. I'm doing the whole schoolboy thing, which will be out after the week after this, so keep an eye out for that. Press time, but I have the barn coat. I have J. Crew cords, which again have stretch in them, but they're high rise, and they were perfect for what I needed them to be. Also, they were like on crazy sale. They're like $20. Yeah. And so it has a good place in my heart. I'm really happy that the one time they had like some sort of like free food sale thing that they asked me to like be in it and be like their personality for the day, and I put that on my Instagram, and a couple people came by to go check it out. But that was a lot of fun, and I feel like that's totally up J. Crew's alley. I wish maybe they had done more stuff like that. I feel like they did, right? Because they did in New York. They had like some woman influencer.
In New York,
had like a huge party.
Got like tons of cool events. It was like, come in and buy this shirt, and then we'll have this guy like embroider it for you for free, or like paint it. Some shit like that. I'm like, damn, how come we don't get any of that stuff here?
All we had was Ethan wearing a tied sweater over a Kamoshida suit and eat like a grilled cheese or something.
That's right. Yeah.
And people walking in like, what the fuck's going on? Who's that guy? But I'm a little bit sad about seeing J. Crew, because even though I don't shop there often, I always buy like the one thing, and I don't really go there for inspiration. It's nice to see that like the mall had a gleam of hope that wasn't like Ralph Lauren or something, that wasn't. It
was like, okay, this is like accessible, but it still like looks good.
Yeah, and
it's like we both love Uniqlo, but it's like it's great that they sell basics, but it's like, I don't know. Other than their Uniqlo U stuff, I feel like there's no like voice.
And which is really hard to find in store, or even see it modeled in store. J. Crew, again, seeing mechanic jacket over a fucking tie, Aloha shirts that looked vintage with real rayon or something like that.
Great. I always got like 3 or 4 of their Aloha shirts every year.
Even though they're modern, I still would prefer a vintage one, or maybe like Kamoshida, United Arrows, Japanese brand, something like that. The ease of access and seeing it in the hands of like regular people was like, okay, maybe we'll be okay, in terms of not everyone, just dressing H&M or just being like Uniqlo. So but yeah, RIP J. Crew, not really, because they're just restructuring.
Who knows?
But hey, who knows what happens? Who knows what's gonna happen? Again, Barney's is closed. Neiman Marcus just fucking filed for bankruptcy. Again, those are 2 places I've never been to. So
Urban hasn't been doing so hot before this, right? Do you think they're
Urban Outfitters?
Yeah, Urban. I don't remember. I think we had a conversation.
Well, Urban Outfitters, first off, like fucks over like artists and designers. Absolutely.
Like all their t-shirts are like stolen art.
And I don't understand why people would shop at Urban Outfitters unless you're a girl, because I feel like all the guy stuff you could just find at a fucking flea market or a thrift store.
Exactly.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah.
There's not curated taste. It's just ripping off stuff and selling it at a higher price.
Are you gonna get self-help books with the F word in the title? Where else are you gonna find that but Urban?
Hey, wait, I have that book. I read that book.
Do. Or like t-shirts of like Michael Scott, but it's like, I don't know, a Death Grips album cover or something.
yeah, or a hat that says influencer on it.
Yeah.
No, I still want the cap that says creative director. I think I'm inspired again. Oh man, we could talk about maybe we won't talk about Effie Castleberry and his dad hats. That's $65 for like
that'll be the Patreon. That'll be the Patreon.
Yeah. Well, our Patreon will all be the mean critical content and everything. But yeah, well anyway, that ends our episode again. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave us a comment on the show notes what you think about J. Crew. We'll include some inspiration images from there.
Yeah, we didn't really get into a lot of the corporate nitty gritty because I don't think either of us are super like interested.
Privy to that even.
Or know much about it. So like, sorry if we didn't talk about like how upset we were when they fired Jenna Lyons or whatever.
Who I met.
You did?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I did. That was just, I saw a woman come in. She was wearing like this pinstripe suit with like an open collared shirt. And I was like, this woman looks so familiar to me. Like, there is something about this one. Like, she's probably some designer or something. And I'm like, oh, can I have your name so I can look up your order? She goes, oh, yeah, Jenna Lyons. I'm like, yep, that's it. That's her. And she has some church mascot Chang, which is really cool. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, we'll have all the links to all the articles that we talked about in here on the pod.
Oh, hey, before we forget, this episode, we pushed another episode to do it. That episode that we pushed was a Q&A, an AMA episode, which we will probably
we'll get to it
again
right after this one. Yes.
Yeah.
That one episode, we have links. We'll include links in the show notes, but send us your questions. Send us your, not stories, just questions this time.
Yeah.
There are also links on my Instagram, on Spencer's Instagram, on the Style and Direction Instagram, where you can submit to us, DM us with your questions, and we'll hopefully answer most of them on that AMA. And then if we do more, we'll have those in a future AMA episode as well.
And
really cool.
Like we said, there was a lot of housekeeping stuff this episode. That'll all be, I don't know, we can put that at the top of the show notes. So once again, that's subscribe to our Instagram or our YouTube. You've already hopefully subscribed to our Instagram. Our YouTube, which is just Style and Direction spelled out on YouTube.
We have our watch us on Twitch. Lots of great content, lots of good conversations on there. We're again starting a Patreon, starting a Discord. Let us know. DM us if you're interested in getting in on that.
So this is something we've talked about before. We've always wondered. People have said, "Oh, why don't you guys make a Patreon?" But we don't know what you guys want for bonus content. So
yeah, and again, if you guys are okay with just contributing, I'm sure they'll have like a lower tier, give like a thing if you feel so inclined,
like $1 a month or something like that.
Yeah, honestly, like guys, like we really appreciate. And again, I don't know who's listening to it. Usually
even though we're trying to make some money on this, we're not expecting this to be like a full-time job or whatever.
No. Yeah, exactly. So we really appreciate all the great comments you guys have. Again, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, wherever you have to use it. We prefer Apple Podcasts because apparently that's what the algorithm looks at the most. But we don't really care. We love it when you guys message us. And again, I get stuff every once in a while like, "Hey, came here from the podcast. Love your stuff," like that. It's really great. It's the same thing from like the blog, where it's literally just a passion project for both of us, a passion project for Matt and MJ who helped produce the pod. Please don't get on mic. Please, God, I hate you guys. But yeah, great stuff coming up. Look out for the next in 2 weeks for the AMA episode. You guys have already sent a couple of great questions in there. We're gonna get through those in the hour. My Instagram is at Ethan M. Wong.
I'm at Spencer DSO.
Follow our Instagram at Sound Direction. I think we said everything. I don't know. Remember, we'll include stuff. You guys, look at the show notes, whatever. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.